Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. With I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you. Toadstool Sports. It is January 2nd, Friday, 2026, baby. Still doesn't seem quite right. Doesn't feel right. But we went 3-0 on the first day of the new year. So a nice way to start the new year. I think similarly to last year, I had a win on the first day last year as well, including my one bowl game. We've been good with the college football bowls/playoffs, man. I think we're 5-1, so obviously I'll take that. And the only loss was kind of BS with New Mexico, so we could be undefeated right now. Although probably we should have lost on the San Diego State one, so it all kind of works out, man. Basketball went all right yesterday, 2-1. UC Davis got the cover. That was a little bit iffy if you look at the box score. I think they won by about 8. They covered, but you know, I mean, the game was kind of a little bit closer than that. But I'm going to take the win. UC Riverside got absolutely destroyed. I don't know what to tell you about that. I don't know what happened in that game. I'm going to look at the box score later if I can even stomach it. I think it was just the wrong play. I thought the situation was good for it. We did get the win with Montana State. And by the way, if you watch my Instagram video for the Montana State game, I completely neglected one thing that made that play even better, which was that Northern Colorado is who Montana State was playing. Northern Colorado is the team that eliminated Montana State from the Big Sky Conference tournament last year in, I believe, the semifinals. So that was actually a huge revenge spot for Montana State as well, because Northern Colorado is the team that ended their season last year, and this is the first time I'm pretty sure that they played them since then. So that was huge, and it was even better than that too, because that look ahead that I said was a look ahead to Montana for Northern Colorado, because Montana won the conference last year. Guess who Montana beat in the finals? Well, I just told you who they beat. They beat Northern Colorado. So Northern Colorado's look ahead spot to Montana that's actually a look ahead to their huge revenge game, because the last time they played Montana was eliminating them from the Big Sky tournament in the final, in the championship game. So that play, that was even better than I even thought it was, man. That had Montana State written all over it in so many ways. That was like dude, man, I wish I had realized it when I talked about it on the show, but that play was, that was probably the best one of the day. That was crazy. And then we did get Oregon right in the bowl game as well. Texas Tech was just all out of sorts. Texas Tech had a ton of turnovers, which made the result look a little bit better than it probably should have been for Oregon. I think the game was closer than it looked, at least. Although Oregon was definitely the better team, though. Oregon did have more chances to score where they failed. I think they only had one touchdown until they got that garbage time touchdown at the end. And they also had a chance to because they were up by 16 late in the game. It was 16-0 with like 4 minutes left or something. And I complained about this on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, because that's still a 2-score game. I mean, it takes 2 2-point conversions plus the 2 touchdowns, but still, a field goal in that scenario would be huge because then you're forced to have to score 3 times. They were going to go up 19-0. They were just settling for the field goal. They just ran the football, running the clock down. It set up like a 38-yard field goal attempt, probably 37, and they missed that field goal. I'm like, are you kidding me? All of it was set up on off of a Texas Tech turnover on downs, I think. But still, so that was a little weird. Oregon settled for a lot of field goals in that game, so it actually could have been a bigger blowout for Oregon in some ways. But in the end, I think the final result was, I guess, almost indicative of what the game was. Really, the game came to Oregon's defense was awesome in the game. I mean, that's really what it came down to. Texas Tech's offense couldn't get anything going in that game. That is just what it came down to. I think they only got down really, like they were only threatening to score like once or twice legitimately in the whole game. And of course, they threw an interception in the end zone the one time they were really threatening. And if they had scored there, it would have cut the game to 13-7 at the time. But that interception, like pretty much, I think that kind of ended the game. But I'm going to take it. I mean, we got Oregon right regardless, so I'll take it. The other bowls were just kind of madness. I mean, I thought Indiana would win. I did not expect them to win in a giant blowout like that. But Indiana, what I forgot to mention is the Rose Bowl there, Indiana's game, that was actually happening in rain. I forgot to mention that there was rain in Pasadena, a rare rain Rose Bowl game. And the rain, I think, actually helped Indiana a bit because the rain can mess with the passing attack more than anything else, and that's what Alabama wants to do. Indiana, they're better in the trenches and they run the football, so I think the rain did help Indiana in that game. But Indiana's the only bye team in college football so far to win their game. It's crazy. And Georgia, I expected Georgia to win. I don't know what happened in that game, man. Georgia back in the same bowl they were in last year, same quarterback. Lane Kiffin being gone from Mississippi, I thought would have some impact because, of course, they could beat Tulane without coaching, man. I mean, Georgia, I thought was going to have a huge coaching edge with Kirby Smart, which I don't think I was going to mention that on the show yesterday. I think I kind of forgot to mention it. Still didn't happen. Absolutely crazy. And then, yeah, there was a safety at the end of the game, too, which is really bizarre. The game was an insane game, just back and forth. I don't know, man. So now we have one of the semifinal games is Miami against Ole Miss. You already know the winner of the championship is going to be whoever wins Indiana versus Oregon. Like that, I mean, whoever wins that game is going to be a pretty substantial favorite in the final, I would have to imagine, regardless of which opponent they face. But they're going to be coming off of a big game because Indiana-Oregon, I mean, Indiana's probably only going to be like a 3.5 point favorite there. I mean, the line's already out. I don't know what it is, but that game is going to be a punishing game. So it is possible the winner of that game does lose, but I have Indiana as the champion in my bracket. We'll see. I had kind of settled on like the winner of the Indiana-Oregon game would be the champion is basically what I said. So, and it seems like it's going to be right. Tyson, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Kyle, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Garrett, horrible day yesterday. What happened, man? Alabama in college football. I don't know what to tell you, man. I thought the game would be closer than that. I don't know what to tell you. Georgia, I mean, the market disagreed on both of them, so I should have I hate that when I disagree with the market and then I'm wrong. Of course, the only play that I have is Oregon, though, so that was my strongest opinion for sure. But, yeah, I mean, I agreed with you on those other two games. Didn't have as strong of an opinion on them, though. But I'm not happy because, I mean, I lost those in the bowl pick'ems, like the spread pick'em that I'm in. I'm actually winning my group still in that one. It's a small group, but I'm not that happy about it. NBA, Saab got the Nets correct by fading them, which I'm kind of surprised about. NBA, this is why I completely avoided the NBA yesterday. I don't want anything to do with it. Nothing to do with it. Today's board, we're going to get into it. It's a horrible board today. Dude, I don't know what to tell you. I have one college basketball game today, and it almost feels like I'm forcing it, to be honest. Like I have nothing else today. I don't know what, like, we can get into it. The college basketball board is not huge, but I mean, we're getting into conference play here, so there'll a lot of small conference games here. Conference USA gets kind of an isolated game on ESPN Plus at noon here, which is New Mexico State and FIU. New Mexico State, they've been decent to start the season. They face some decent, like, mid-major opponents here. They have a pretty nice win over New Mexico, their in-state rival, although New Mexico might be down a little bit. New Mexico State coming into this game off of some easy win over a non-Division I team. I think FIU is in the worst spot here because they just took Liberty basically to the wire. That was a huge game for FIU. Liberty, known as being one of the better teams in this conference pretty much every year. They were really good in the A-Sun, which is why they moved up to the CUSA. They've been good basically in whatever conference they've been in. So I think that's a huge game for FIU. They almost got the win. Coming off of that, could be difficult for them to get back up for this, but New Mexico State does have a better record than they do. So I'm not sure that FIU does completely overlook this game, and it does look kind of weird to see the team with the lesser record and FIU being a favorite. So the odds makers are telling you that, yeah, New Mexico State's the better team, but it's not by that significant of a margin, which I agree with. I would still lean towards New Mexico State here, but the money is really disagreeing with me on this one. 62% of the tickets on New Mexico State, 52% of the cash on FIU, who have gone for a pick 'em to a 1-point favorite. And again, I mean, you saw how fading the market really went yesterday. So in the football games, at least. I like to try to rely on my situational handicapping, but I like the market to agree with me as well. So, and if I don't have a strong opinion, I maybe should like weigh the market a little bit heavier, more heavily into my decision. The tickets are that's like the amount of bets, just literally the number of bets on that side tracked across whatever sports books. This is pregame.com, whatever sports books they're tracking. I like their set of sports books that they track better because they're tracking all the Vegas Strip casinos, and they're tracking like a couple of the major online sports books, and they're tracking the offshore online sports books, so they can get a better gauge of the disparity between like where the public is and where the professional money is. So like what I want to look for is I want to see a huge discrepancy between the cash percentage and the ticket percentage, because if the ticket percentage is all one way, that means there is a high volume of small bets. That basically means it's like the recreational bettors, the public bettors betting that side. But then if you see the cash percentage going completely against it, that means that there aren't that many bets volume-wise, but it means that those bets are huge money bets, if that makes sense. If the amount of cash is, you know, like on the completely different side from the amount of tickets volume-wise, if that makes sense, like the amount of bets, you know what I mean? So you're trying to separate out where are all the small money bets, like the public bettors, and where are the huge bets from the professionals going, you know what I mean? So hopefully that explanation makes sense. You're on a 10-0 run. Nice, Saab. Hell yeah. Saab, you had the Houston Rockets right yesterday. I was wrong about that. I might disagree with you again on the Nets game today, but I'll talk about it. I see no other way of seeing the Nets game today other than the way that I see it, though. So it's not my play today, though. We have Mount St. Mary's at Merrimack in the MAAC conference. Mount St. Mary's could be in a little bit of a difficult spot here because they just beat Iona. Iona, it's always big when you beat Iona because Iona is usually near the top of this conference. They're almost always one of the most competitive teams in this conference. That's a big win. Merrimack is still pretty new to this conference, so going to Merrimack is a little bit of a weird travel spot. I forget where, I don't even remember where Mount St. Mary's actually is, though, so my apologies. I want to say they're in Connecticut. I could be wrong about that. No, they're actually in Maryland. Wow. So they have to go up to northern Massachusetts for this one. And then they have to go to Quinnipiac, and that could be a look-ahead spot. Quinnipiac, they've been one of the best teams in this conference pretty much since they moved up to Division I. They're pretty good again right now in this conference. And they actually have St. Peter's after that, too. So Those teams are both undefeated in the conference, but the question is, are they really going to overlook Merrimack, who's also actually undefeated in the conference right now? I don't know, because I don't think Merrimack is really as good as those other teams. So, I mean, I'd lean towards Merrimack, but it's a very weak lean here. Merrimack just won at Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart's not good. Merrimack, I think, probably was a favorite in that game, I would guess. I would lay it if I was going to play it in this game. Merrimack is just sitting at a 4-point favorite, but you're also asking a Merrimack team that is really, really offensively deficient. Like, they don't score a lot. They play slow, so asking them to cover a number as a favorite, not something I really want to do either in most cases. I think I've played them before when I'm like, oh, I'll lay 2.5 with Merrimack, and they barely get by. I'm like, oh my God. 50% of tickets, 53% of the cash on Mount St. Mary's. So yeah, we'll see what happens in that game. You're on the Nets today. I completely disagree with the Nets today. Yes, I do not agree whatsoever. Okay. Let's, what am I going to now? I don't even know, man. Some of these games, we do have a big game up. We have some ranked matchups today in the Big Ten. Number 24, USC, the Eric Musselman USC against Michigan, who's number 2 in the country, on Peacock at 7 p.m. This game has an insanely high total, by the way, because Michigan likes to play really fast right now under Dusty May. Totals up to 172.5, and I probably would not want to be on an under in this one, even though the total is ridiculously high. When it's that high, I would say it's over or pass. Over might be really the way to look at this game because both teams play fast. I think it is going to be a score fest in this one. Now, I don't love what that means for Michigan, long term, because you know me, I don't love teams that play way fast, teams that play too fast, having to run through a gauntlet of a tournament and win 6 games in a row like that. It can take its toll on a team. So usually the teams that slow it down a bit more tend to do better. Although last year, Florida was a somewhat fast-paced team, so it's not always the case, but more often than not it is. And I still think Florida should have gotten bounced in that tournament. But this game, there isn't a whole lot to see as far as the situation. Both teams are going to show up for this. This is a huge game. Michigan is obviously the better team. USC just beat some non-D1 team. Michigan just trounced McNeese. McNeese, we know they're a pretty solid program right now in the Southland, although maybe on their way back down a little bit. But Michigan absolutely handled them, put up over 110 points. You got to think, though, if you're going to play the side on this game, there's got to be no value in playing Michigan, though. They've just looked so good. The line has to be at least somewhat inflated on the Michigan side. They're a 22.5-point favorite here. 72% of the tickets on them, 71% of the money on USC. So I'll agree with it. I would agree with taking the points with USC, but it's not something that I am really looking to do in a high total game as well. Michigan could definitely still win that game by margin. And the line, in a way, almost looks too big between two ranked teams. You usually don't see two ranked teams facing off with a spread being in the 20s. That is just crazy. But I still think that it's probably a little bit too high because the books can't really do anything except skew it towards Michigan slightly. So it's an interesting game. Head-to-head, yeah, I'm going to explain why I think the Bucks are the right side in that game when I get to it. Dude, maybe my explanation should at least keep people off of making a dangerous bet. I don't know. What happened? What are we talking about here, Nate? The best American point getter? We're talking about hockey, I assume. Billy G. Who are we talking about? Billy Graham, the televangelist? What's happening here? Who got snubbed from the Olympic team? What are we talking about? Yeah, I know we're talking about USA Hockey. Well, who's the best player? Who's the best USA scorer? Who are we talking about? Austin Matthews? Is he an American? I don't even know, man. Did he get snubbed? I'm not a huge fan of Austin Matthews just because he plays for the Maple Leafs. In the MAAC, we do have actually a pretty good matchup here between Siena and Iona. For people that like these mid-major basketball games, this might be a good one. These two teams are both going to be in the mix for trying to win this conference this year. Sienna's having a good season so far. Siena did just play Indiana, which is a pretty difficult opponent. Now they're playing another road game, which does make it a little bit more difficult for them, I think, as far as how this game sets up, although they were not close against Indiana. They lost by 21. Iona just took what's definitely an uglier loss to Mount St. Mary's. Iona, I'm sure, was a favorite in that game, which I think I talked about when I talked about Mount St. Mary's a second ago. So I do think that the way to look at this is to look towards Iona here. The travel spot, I think, favors them a little bit more as well. They're playing at home. The line has dropped a little bit from 1.5 to 1. But Siena, I mean, to me, they kind of seem to be a little bit of the hot commodity right now, although maybe that's just because I'm in the world of gambling here, so we know who Siena is and we know what they're doing this season. But maybe the professionals don't. Maybe the maybe the recreational bettors don't. Maybe they won't be on this game at all. But I think the way the situation sets up would have me leaning towards Iona, but I don't like it very much. Jason Robertson. Matthews, yeah, I don't like Matthews. He's a prissy boy, man. He plays for the Leafs. They're not a tough team, man. The Bruins pretty much always dominate the Leafs in the playoffs. I was at the playoff game, game 1, the last time the Bruins played the Maple Leafs in the playoffs. I was at game 1 of that series. Prior to being at the game one of the games where the Bruins lost to Florida, so that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I don't even really know who Robertson is, though. Another game in the MAAC that's interesting, this MAAC conference has really, I think, most of the interesting games today. Marist at St. Peter's. These two teams are both doing pretty well in the conference as well. Now, Marist just lost to Quinnipiac. That was a big game. These two teams both pretty much near the top of the conference, and Marist does have Iona next. Now, the question is going to be, though, are they going to really overlook St. Peter's, who's 3-0 in the conference so far? I don't know. I mean, I just think Quinnipiac and Iona, they just have kind of more name recognition in this conference right now, even though I know Iona's only 1-2 in the conference so far. But they're going to be in the mix, I'm telling you. Once this conference tournament starts, whatever, Iona is going to be dangerous. And we'll see what they do in conference play, but that would be my read right now. I mean, Marist, they're a team that was just like a doormat for a long time, and they've actually been pretty good the last couple of years in this conference, and they are again. But coming off that tough game against Quinnipiac, having to play again on the road, got to go down to New Jersey for this one, and then they come back and they play Iona next. To me, I think the situation does favor St. Peter's in this one. St. Peter's, their overall record looks worse. St. Peter's did just win at Fairfield, which is an okay win, though. That was actually an upset win for St. Peter's, so I'm not really looking to jump on St. Peter's after they pulled off a pretty decent road upset, so it's a stay away for me as well. Slight lean to St. Peter's for me. Marist down from 4.5 to 2.5 here, and I think we're kind of gone from the days where the public is on St. Peter's, the Peacocks, and remembering what they did in the tournament that one year where they pulled off whatever it was, 2 or 3 upsets in that ridiculous tournament run a couple years back, including Purdue in that tournament, because what else is new? Purdue losing to all these really, really low conference, small conference teams in some of these tournaments here. Although Purdue has done better in the tournament the last couple of years. And I think they will again this year, but we'll see. Just, looking ahead. Brooklyn against the Nuggets. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what the line looks like with Jokic out. I don't know what you were looking at either. Yeah, I like the Bucks in that game. Yes, St. Peter. Yeah, UNC got a nice draw in that game, man. Getting to face St. Peter's. I think I kept fading St. Peter's in that tournament because when like an absurd upset happens, I usually tend to just fade that team because it's like that team didn't even expect to really even be in the tournament, and then they get that monumental win. It's like basically they shoot their wad, although that seems to not be the case as much recently. But yeah, I'm like, when a team, they beat Kentucky in that tournament, and like right after that, I was like, you gotta fade St. Peter's in the next game, and they caught me. I think I kept fading them until they lost. So I think I went 1-2 on the St. Peter's games in that tournament, unfortunately. But I think I had UNC in that game, and they got me my one winner in that run of games. I didn't do well in the tournament this year either, so unfortunate. Okay, if you want me to talk about any of these other games, I can. Kennesaw and Liberty might be an all right game. Kennesaw has been decent in the, what are they in? They're in the Conference USA now, I think, which is, I think, weird because I'm pretty sure both of these teams might have been in the Atlantic Sun Conference before, and now they're both in Conference USA, so they're kind of old rivals in a way. But Liberty is the better of the two teams right now, and Liberty, as I already mentioned, they're coming off a close call against FIU. So that could be a game that might shock them back into focus a little bit. So I would probably lean towards Liberty in this one. People also might look at this, remember Kennesaw being in the tournament a couple of times recently, see the records, 8-4 for Kennesaw, 9-3 for Liberty. And then you look at the spread, like why should Liberty be an 8.5 point favorite here? Well, the odds makers are telling you which team is really the better team here. Kennesaw is coming off playing Alabama as well, though that game wasn't really that close. They lost by 11, but it was still a game against Alabama, man. So they are coming off the more difficult games. So in this game, I would say it's Liberty or pass in this game. Give me Liberty or give me death in this game. Liberty's, again, you'd have to lay 8.5 for that one, though. All right. We do have a game, another Big Ten game. We got Big Ten games all over the place today, and a few ACC. Oregon and Maryland, which is the ugliest of the Big Ten games today, but it's happening. Oregon's having to go to the East Coast for a true road game for the first time this year, so it is a weird travel spot for Oregon to have to go all the way out to Maryland. Both of these teams have underperformed. They've both been disappointments so far this year, so it's the disappointment bowl, basically. Which one of these teams is going to win out? I kind of like Maryland here. I just think it's a weird travel spot for Oregon, man. Oregon, they just pounded Omaha, so they look pretty good in doing that. But again, having to travel to the East Coast, I think for the first time this year, Maryland is actually being lined as an underdog at home. Maryland just got a win over ODU, Old Dominion, to break a loss streak. But those three losses were not really anything to really scoff at. I mean, they lost at Iowa. That's not easy to go in and do anything against Iowa, man. They lost to Michigan. We know how good they are. And they lost to an upstart Virginia team who's, Virginia's definitely on the rise again. I don't know if upstart is the right word, but they're good again. And Maryland played them to within 8 on the road. Now, I know Maryland hasn't stepped up well in class here. They even lost to Georgetown, so they only have one power conference win against Marquette, but Oregon's not exactly a powerhouse right now, man, and you actually will get points with Maryland in this one. So that would be my lean in that one. I would take the points with Maryland. Oregon dropped a little bit, though, from 3.5 to like 3 or 2.5 here, but you're still getting points with Maryland if you want to do it. It's a fairly low total as well of 148.5. Oregon likes to play all these ugly games, man. And, I mean, at some point the ship does have to turn around, and maybe it's starting to, because Oregon, I think, failed to cover the spread in the first 10 games that had lines on them for them this year. And now they have covered some since then, but they've still been a money burner this year, man. So, although I think Maryland kind of somewhat has as well, but 71% of tickets, 92% of the cash on Maryland. I do not disagree with Maryland in that game. In the Conference USA, we have Louisiana Tech at Middle Tennessee. Louisiana Tech coming off an easy win over UTEP. Nothing to really see there. Don't know if they're going to be looking ahead to Western Kentucky, because Western Kentucky is a little bit down this year. Middle Tennessee, I think Middle Tennessee is in a bad spot, man. I mean, it's as simple as that. Middle Tennessee just lost at Houston by 9 points. That was a huge performance from Middle Tennessee, even though the game wasn't really as close as it looks. Like, I looked at the box score, and Houston was winning that game by 16, 18 late in the game. And I think Houston pretty much just packed it in, and Middle Tennessee put up some garbage time scores at the end to cut it to 9. The game was over, but still, Middle Tennessee coming off playing a punishing Houston team. I don't know if the spot sets up great for them here in this one, man. Although I will say, Middle Tennessee's a 5.5-point favorite here, and they have the worst record, 7-5. La Tech 8-4. So usually when you see a team with the worst record as a favorite like that, the public wants nothing to do with it. It does look like a fishy line. So usually I would not want to fade a team that's favored like that. Although I was wrong about Bowling Green in a situation like that the other day. I don't know how Miami, Ohio keeps doing what they're doing. And it looks like the public is kind of on the La Tech side. 67% of tickets, only 62% of the cash on them. The line has moved up from 5 to 5.5, but it's a low total in the 130s. And again, do you really want to lay points with Middle Tennessee after they just played Houston like that? I don't. So personally, I would fade on the market read in that one, but I don't love fading the market, especially when it means jumping on a public underdog in a game with a really, really sketchy looking line like that. So I have to stay away from that game, obviously. This was my morning today, being like, holy crap, I'm going to have no plays today. And then I decided, yeah, I'll give you guys one play, but I mean, in which I'm kind of breaking that rule that I just talked about, but not to an extent like that. We have Louisville at Stanford in the ACC here, getting into this night slate here. Louisville's ranked 16th in the country. I think they're about appropriately ranked as far as where KenPom has them. Let me kill my YouTube window here. I have YouTube up usually to just make sure my audio's all right. Louisville's already out on the Pacific Coast. They just beat Cal handily by 20 points. And I think Cal is better than Stanford, but you know how that usually works out. So I think Louisville might be maybe feeling a little bit good off of that win, and they have to play Duke in 4 days, man. So that is a major look ahead to Duke. So I do worry about Louisville in this spot. Even though, yes, Stanford is not as good as Cal. Stanford is not as good as their record looks at 11-3. Stanford is coming off that really, really ugly loss, though, to Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame might have even been a small favorite in that game. The line was like really close to a pick 'em. I think Notre Dame is the better team between them and Stanford, but losing 47-40, I mean, it doesn't get much uglier than that. A game with 87 total points. Absolutely nobody is going to want Stanford off of that, man. And yes, I know they did lose a win streak, and sometimes when you lose a win streak, that can hang you over, but the win streak did get disrupted because Christmas break was in the middle of it. So I think the first game out of the break, I think, was the bad game against Cal State Northridge. So Stanford hasn't played well coming out of the break, and I think maybe this is the game where they show up for once, man. So I would look to take the points with Stanford in this one. Playing on teams that just had a really ugly result like that is usually the way that I like to lean. I think Louisville might look ahead to Duke here. Back-to-back, road games here on the road in whatever it is, 3 or 4 days out in California. Late night game again. I know Louisville's now adjusted to the time zone, but Louisville's up from 9 to 10 here. Total in the 150s. I would take the points with Stanford, but I'm not going to actually give it out as a play or anything. Get back on the horse, man. Jeffrey, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, I mean, it's what you got to do after a bad day, man. You just got to keep grinding. We do also have Ohio State and Rutgers on Peacock. I mean, this is actually a pretty ugly game as well. Ohio State just beat Grambling, whatever, and they play Rutgers, but they do have to turn around and play Nebraska back at home in a few days. So definitely could be a bit of a look-ahead spot here. Ohio State has not played that many games on the road so far. They did lose at Pitt, which was a winner for me on the show, and they beat me by beating Northwestern, so I'm 1-1 in those games. Now, Ohio State did play pretty competitively against Illinois, even though I think they didn't cover, and that was a loss for me as well. I've played on a lot of Ohio State games, apparently, because we did get a win, we got a win with West Virginia against them in this game. So, I've had a lot of Ohio State action, both on them and against them this year. And then, Ohio State came off that nice game against UNC. I'm guessing that they did not cover against Grambling here, which I might have even given out Grambling as a play in that game. I don't remember. But I think Ohio State might look ahead here, man. I mean, it's kind of a weird travel spot to have to go to New Jersey and play this Rutgers team that's just really, really ugly here. Rutgers should get up for this game. Rutgers is coming off another really ugly-looking game where they didn't look very impressive against a very weak Delaware State team, only beating them by 15 at home in a low-scoring game. Nobody's going to want Rutgers in this one, man, but it should be a game that Rutgers gets up for, man. They got Ohio State coming in at home. Rutgers, at the very least, you could say they're pretty battle-tested. They played Tennessee, Notre Dame, Purdue, Michigan, Seton Hall. Yeah, they lost all those games, but they might be able to hang within a number here because you know they're going to be an underdog in this game. Yeah, Ohio State's a double-digit favorite here, a 10-point favorite. Rutgers likes to slow it down and play real ugly as well. The total's in the 140s. I would look to take the points. 80% of tickets, 92% of the cash on Ohio State in that one, but I disagree with where the cash is right there. I think Ohio State is definitely going to be a public side in that game. So those are my thoughts on that one. I disagreed with Houston last night, and Saab and I both disagree with the Nets tonight, for what it's worth. I actually hate the Nets in the game tonight. I think the only way that you could play that game is to play Milwaukee. Yeah, the Nets whisperer, I don't know, man. He got that game right yesterday, but I don't know. All right, we have West Virginia at Iowa State. I actually thought this line was going to be higher than it is, and I thought the total was going to be higher than it is. So it's very interesting. The odds makers kind of seem to be signaling that West Virginia is going to be able to ugly this game up quite a bit. Iowa State ranked third in the country. I mean, nobody's really going to want to come in and fade Iowa State right now. They're still undefeated. Everybody remembers they had that ridiculous win at Purdue. Nobody really ever goes into Purdue and does that. I know Iowa State's really good, but other than that, I mean, they have a few other pretty good wins in here against St. John's, only by 1 point, and then Iowa by 4, which that was a win here on the show. We took the points with Iowa. And Iowa, you know what they do? They slow the game way down like West Virginia does, although Iowa's better than West Virginia, but Iowa State had problems with that style at home, man. So I know Purdue is a slow team as well, but Iowa and West Virginia, unlike Purdue, because Purdue is still like kind of a shooting offensive efficiency team, even though they play half court. Iowa and West Virginia, they both like try to grind you, and they just want to make the game as ugly as possible. So that might actually screw with Iowa State here, because Iowa State plays fast, and they're not a bad offensive team either. So it is kind of crazy to me to see this line, the total being at 140.5. Like, this is a game where I think side and total are correlated here. And the odds makers, to me, they're kind of just shouting at you that you probably should take the points with West Virginia here. Iowa State's up to 18 here. If the total's this low and West Virginia is somehow able to muddy this thing up and slow it down, I think West Virginia plus the points is probably the way to look in this game. This is on ESPN2. West Virginia, I mean, everybody's just talking about how much they stink. Maybe Iowa State looks ahead to Baylor because Baylor is a 2-loss team so far. They've looked good so far. And, you know, Baylor, I mean, they're one of the heavyweights still in the Big 12, I would say. So that game would be West Virginia or pass for me in that one. All right. I'm going to talk about, this next game. This is my one play of the day. So I only have one play, and here it is. Best bets. It's a really, really bad board today, man. And this one, I don't even know how much I love this one, but I'm going to go with my strength of schedule assessment here. And we're going to go, sorry, Nate. We're going to take Michigan State against Nebraska, plus the points here. Plus, I think it's 2.5 right now. It's like, all right, if you're giving me points with the better defense, which is what this is, you know I'm going to start looking that way. Michigan State has 65% of the tickets, but 74% of the cash. I mean, this might be a situation where public and professionals are all kind of on the same side here, which I don't love being on the public side, obviously, but I think it's the right side. I know the initial line movement was on Nebraska up to 2.5, but I think you might see some take back on the Michigan State side because, again, without a doubt, Michigan State at the very least is the better defense, and you know I like the better defense as an underdog here, and that's where the biggest disparity is here, because even though Nebraska has the better offense of the two teams, the biggest disparity is between the two defenses. Michigan State has the better defense, but it's a more significant gap in the defenses. It's a low total, 143. Michigan State likes to play slower. They might actually be able to slow it down a little bit, even though Nebraska is at home. Nebraska's going to probably try to go a little bit faster here. Michigan State, I mean, they're totally battle tested, man. I mean, they're going to know what to do in this game. They're not going to be intimidated at all. This game's on Peacock at 9 p.m. for what it's worth here. Now, the one thing I don't love is that, yes, I know Michigan State's ranked 9th in the country. Nebraska's ranked 13th, and the lower-ranked team is the favorite here. And I know in basketball and football, when you see the lower-ranked team being favored, it is usually a very good indicator that you should play on that favorite, but I'm going to buck that trend. I told you I was going to go against one of my rules. I'm a rule breaker, man. I mean, it's not set in stone, and I'm doing it here. And the main reason for it is that Michigan State is just way more battle-tested. I mean, look at what Michigan State has done this year. I mean, this is what Tom Izzo does, and this is why he does it. So that once conference play starts, his team has already been through the ringer, and they're not going to be intimidated by anybody. Michigan State already has wins against Arkansas, Kentucky, North Carolina, impressive win there, Iowa. They only lost by 6 to Duke. So, I mean, this is a team that's been battle-tested. Literally, their only loss on the season is that 6-point loss to Duke. No shame in that. And then, yes, I know coming off that game against Duke, we faded Michigan State because they were off that huge game. And they didn't play well against Penn State, and they almost lost. And I know that was their only road game so far. But this is a Tom Izzo coach team, and I'm not too concerned with the fact that this is another true road game. It's a conference road game, so it's a place where they're fairly used to having to go to play. And again, there are reasons why they didn't play well in the Penn State game, besides the fact that it was a road game, although I know that was part of my handicap, that was their first true road game, but now this one isn't. I know Michigan State's coming off a high-scoring game against Cornell. Cornell was able to speed them up, but I'm wondering if maybe Michigan State just kind of didn't come out and really try to play intense defense there. They kind of knew they could just play at a faster tempo, win that game, whatever, not play really crazy defense. And maybe they were looking ahead to this one because you know they're going to have their sights set on this game because Nebraska's still undefeated. So that's what's going to I think they're going to be definitely focused on this game here. And for Nebraska, as I've been pointing out, Nebraska, they've faced a way weaker schedule, man. I mean, look at what they've done this year. I mean, I'm just not impressed by this. They beat Oklahoma. Oklahoma doesn't look very impressive right now. They beat New Mexico, fine, but New Mexico's a Mountain West team, you know, I mean, and they're not the best Mountain West team either, and they don't really defend well. So, whatever. New Mexico is probably a top 100 team, but that's not very impressive. So, Nebraska beat those two teams, I believe, in Kansas City. They beat Kansas State, who really doesn't look that good. Kansas State's struggling against like mid-major teams, like losing to Bowling Green by double digits, and Nebraska only beat that team by 1. They barely got by Winthrop by 7. They beat Creighton. Creighton looks a little bit down this year, although that is one of Nebraska's best wins. Yeah, they beat Wisconsin. But Wisconsin has, I mean, they annihilated Wisconsin. Wisconsin's just really struggling right now. It's possible that Wisconsin's just not that good. I mean, I don't know. They don't look very good. And then, yes, Nebraska had that one legitimate win where I know I gave out Illinois as a play on that one. Illinois was a double-digit favorite in that game. Nebraska pulled off the upset, but I'm not going to say that you should move your power ratings around by like 10 points or something just because Nebraska pulls off one huge upset like that, you know? And then since then, they've had really easy games against North Dakota and New Hampshire. New Hampshire is pitiful. Now they're coming off of that, and they have to step back up in class to face Michigan State. Again, I don't like it. Michigan State clearly has faced the way, way more difficult schedule. Ken Baum definitely reflects that with Michigan State having the 53rd strongest schedule. He has Michigan State as the better team, although, of course, the line is also still telling you that because Nebraska's not getting the full home court. But I think this line should be about 1, to be honest. Nebraska is only 7 ranking spots higher, I know, but Michigan State, again, significantly better defense. They're only 9 ranking spots lower in the offensive efficiency numbers for Ken Palm. Defensively, they're 6th in the country versus Nebraska 28th. Weird that Nebraska is better defensively than offensively as well, though. and they play faster. They're kind of a mid-tempo team, but Michigan State probably going to ugly this thing up, slow it down. Ken Bum does have Nebraska high in the luck index at 66, so he is telling you they've overperformed. So that's a team that you might want to be looking to fade for that reason as well. And they only have the 206th strongest strength of schedule, according to Ken Bum, whereas Michigan State's is 53rd. So like I said, Michigan State has faced a way more difficult schedule so far. I don't trust Nebraska. I don't think they're as good as they look right now. They're facing a pretty elite Michigan State team here. We're going to go with it. Michigan State. That's going to be the play. That's my only play of the day. Michigan State plus the points. All right. Netskier, I think he probably has to get like the when they, like the stuff they print out before the Nets, like, well, the Nets would need to like make the playoffs or something, because he might get the stuff that says like, Nets champions before they actually don't win the championship. The stuff that gets shipped to like Africa. You know what I mean? We do not have Bojangles up here, no. That's a chicken joint, right? I try to be on top of all the fast food stuff, but no. In the Northeast, we have we're not a fried chicken area in the Northeast. Let's just say that we have all the typical. Like, we have the biggest chains basically. We have Chick-fil-A didn't even come up here until probably about a couple decades ago. So we have Chick-fil-A, we have Popeyes, which Popeyes hasn't been up here that long either. KFC obviously has been up here for my entire life. No surprise there. And we do have Raising Cane's, which is the best out of those chains that we have up here. So, yeah. Fading Cincinnati football. I agree Cincinnati's going to lose that game, but I just don't know about that line. Yeah, there's no Bojangles up in the Northeast, I don't think. Under, you keep playing unders, man. I mean, I just don't know. Yes, get an authentic Italian. We call them subs up here where I am, sir. Oh, yes, we have Dave's Hot Chicken. That's true. Wait, Kyle, you're in New England with me? What? Yes, Dave's Hot Chicken. I was surprised when I first tried them. Like, this is actually good. Like, way better than I thought it would be for a huge fast food chain. It's not like legit Nashville hot chicken, but it's not that far off, and it is actually hot. Like, if you get some of the hottest, I've tried the hottest, like the one that you have to sign a waiver for, the Reaper, which is the step up from like the extra hot or whatever. I was in some pain when I had the Reaper, and the extra hot is definitely legit as well. So I usually just go with hot when I get Dave's Hot Chicken, just because I want to actually enjoy it, while still getting smacked in the face with heat. So, yeah, we have Assad's, yeah, of course. No, but we have a lot of halal food up here, though, and I do like that, like the halal guys. Actually, really, really good stuff. Even though it basically just kind of comes down to it being chicken and rice, but it's good. Nashville hot chicken, hell yeah. With mashed potatoes. I like to get it with, I get it the standard way, basically, with the white bread, the fries, and, coleslaw. I think, and pickles, I guess. I think it's pretty much the standard way. But I'm kind of like, what are you supposed to do with the white bread? Like, I guess you put the chicken on the white bread. You can get it at Dave's that way, too. But usually I get the sliders at Dave's just because I'm like, whatever. Like, if I get the white bread, I'm just going to put the chicken on the white bread and kind of make it into a sandwich anyway. So, I don't know. Yeah, I just get the sliders at Dave's usually. Tyson and Pinsy, you guys are all in New England? All right. Hell yeah. Panthers and Tar Heels, yes. Right, yeah, Javier Assad on the Cubs. Yeah, he's not very good. They serve it with collard greens. All right. All right, what else did I want to talk about here before I get out of this college basketball mode here? We got Loyola Marymount and Washington State out in the West Coast Conference here. Loyola Marymount is coming off of beating us somehow. I'm still pissed about that. Pacific should have covered there. I thought it was a sandwich spot that Loyola Marymount was in, which would tell me they should show up for this game against Washington State. Washington State's just not really that good anymore, though. Like, since they've kind of had to go down into this conference. Washington State is off a fairly ugly loss to Seattle, though. Although Seattle's pretty good right now, and Seattle was the favorite in that one. I mean, I don't know. Something tells me to lean towards Washington State here, and there's a reason why they're favored, even though they're 6-9 and Loyola Marymount's 10-5. Like, what public bettor is going to see this and want to lay points with a 6-9 team against a 10-5 team, right? So the odds makers are basically telling you something. When you see a team that has that much worse of a record and they're favored, that is definitely something you got to take notice of. So I think it's probably Washington State or pass in that game. They're up from 1.5 to 2. It is a low total, 142.5, but you're only asking them to win by a bucket, basically. So the total shouldn't really come into play, hopefully. 75% of tickets, 84% of the cash on Washington State in that one. Portland, actually, no, San Diego and San Francisco is kind of interesting, too, because San Diego, they just came to within 6 points of Gonzaga. So I was thinking about this, and I'm like, well, I kind of want to fade San Diego off of that. But then I looked at the box score, and Gonzaga was way ahead in that game, and I think Gonzaga just, like, pretty much left the building. Like, I don't even know if they were still on the court. And San Diego scored, like, probably 10 unanswered points to finish the game when the game was already over. So it wasn't as close as it looked. It was still a big game for San Diego, though. Now they got to go up to San Francisco. But the other problem here is they're not going to overlook San Francisco. I mean, San Francisco has been one of the better teams in the conference, so it's a question of, is San Diego going to be out of gas from that game against Gonzaga? Maybe. For San Francisco, they just did have a fairly ugly loss at Oregon State. I don't even know which of those teams was favored. Oregon State might have been a small favorite in that one, even though they're down as a program right now. But going to Corvallis and trying to beat that team there is not really an easy thing to do. So you could argue San Francisco's off of kind of a difficult game as well, but I think if I was going to play this game, I would have to lay the points just because I think San Diego just might be gassed after that game against Gonzaga, and they're really just not that good. San Francisco is definitely the better team. San Francisco is down from 12.5 to 10.5, but they have 94% of the cash right now, 50% of the tickets. So the tickets are evenly split, 50-50, I should say. Then we do have Portland at St. Mary's. I almost said Mount St. Mary's. No, St. Mary's. Portland, they are coming off a game where they did actually play really close against Santa Clara at home. Portland almost was able to upset Santa Clara. They lost by 7. That was a huge game for them, though. Now they have to go out on the road to face St. Mary's. Now, I know they're going to try to get up for a game against St. Mary's, but I think it's just going to be tough for them to have effort like that another game in a row like that. Now, for St. Mary's, they're coming off an easy blowout win over Pepperdine. I don't know if they're going to be looking ahead to Seattle or not, because Seattle has been playing well. So, I mean, maybe a little bit of a worry. I mean, my bigger concern, though, is that I just don't like laying huge points with St. Mary's because they play so slow. It's just getting into kind of dangerous territory. They're down from 22 to 21.5. I mean, I will do it in certain spots, but the total is 147.5. We know, again, St. Mary's, they play really, really slow. Half-court basketball, whatever. So I worry about it a little bit. If you forced me, I probably would lay it still with St. Mary's, but I don't love it. And then we do have Notre Dame in California. We have an ACC game. The late-night degenerate special is an ACC game with Notre Dame. Just like Louisville, Notre Dame is having to play their second game in a row out there. And they're coming off that hideous win against Stanford, 47-40. So maybe the public still doesn't want anything to do with Notre Dame here. I don't know. They do have to play Clemson when they come back home, though, after they get a break. For Cal's coming off that blowout loss to Louisville. Now, my problem with that is that Cal hadn't lost in a long time. Cal's only loss prior to that was on the road at Kansas State. And I know Cal's not really that good. I think they're better than Stanford, though. But Cal, they just have not faced a difficult schedule. And I worry that loss, I talk about that. When you lose a long win streak, sometimes you will be hung over into the next game. And Cal does have Virginia next, which is maybe something they're going to be looking ahead to. So I do worry about the spot that Cal is in here. Cal has gone up from a 2.5-point favorite to a 5-point favorite, though. 82% of the tickets and 97% of the cash, on Cal. So the money seems to have come in on Cal. It is a low total. I mean, Notre Dame is getting into these ugly games. 138. This game is hard for me to figure out, man. The money is St. Cal. I kind of disagree with it, especially in a game with a low total. I might be looking to take the points. I mean, Cal losing that long win streak and the fact that they have Virginia next, Notre Dame coming off an ugly win. And when teams win ugly, sometimes you do want to look to play on that team in the next game because they'll be a little bit undervalued. Like public bettors just don't like playing on teams that look ugly, even if they win. So, yeah, I mean, Notre Dame plus the points probably would be my lean in that game, but I don't have a good opinion on that. All right, let's go to NHL after I go do my daily clearing of the sinuses. Hang on, I'm going to be right back. Garrett, chicken biscuit, where'd you get that from? You're in the South, so you get, like, really good chicken biscuits. Up here, for me, it would have to be, like, Chick-fil-A or something, although theirs is actually not that bad. But hang on. All right, I can't tell you how much I hate the winter, man. All right, Bojangles, yeah. That is, all right. Yeah, Bojangles, I don't even know if I've ever had them. I've had churches. I don't know. I'm just not in the South that much. All right, we have NHL here. We got 4 games, not a huge slate here. I don't love it, but of course, the Winter Classic is the game that's going to get the attention today. We do have Vegas at St. Louis here. I think Jeffrey said he likes the under in this game. Although I think you said St. Louis was playing somebody else. I don't know. Vegas, I would worry about any sort of under in a Vegas game, by the way. Their goaltending has been a massive, massive issue. After Hart looked pretty good when they brought him in, he's been awful recently, and they actually had to pull him from the game, I think, against Minnesota, and they put Schmidt in, and then Schmidt was good to finish that game, and he was awful in the game the other day against Nashville. So Vegas has some major goaltending issues right now. Vegas is starting a road trip, though, and they're coming off another ugly loss. So after a really bad homestand, it is a positive spot for Vegas. They should be focused more on defense, although, again, I'm definitely concerned about their goaltending. And St. Louis, I mean, their goaltending is always a concern, too. There's no way that I would play an under in this game. St. Louis coming off getting wrecked by Colorado 6-1. They should be in a bounce-back mode as well. That was a single-game road trip, so they are coming back home from that. They're not going to overlook Vegas, though. So, I mean, it's a game where both teams should be in focus spots here, so I think I probably would lean to Vegas because they're the better team. You might even be getting a little bit of a cheap price on Vegas, believe it or not, because they haven't looked good recently, but they still are the better team. They're up from minus 150 to minus 152. 91% of the tickets, 98% of the cash on them. This total is, I mean, it is low. 5.5. Usually, a 5.5 in hockey, usually I would actually say the under makes more sense in that one, but I would not want to do it in this game. 95% of the tickets, 98% of the cash on the over. It looks like the number is creeping up, by the way. There's some more juice on that over. It's actually the number's really closer to 6 at this point. So do with that information what you want to, but I really hate that game from a handicapping perspective. That's why I'm sniffling all the time. I'm doing cocaine, like the sniffling accountant in Seinfeld, if you guys have ever seen that one. That he keeps sniffling. They think he's on cocaine the whole time, and it turns out that it's like an allergic reaction to Kramer's sweater or something like that. I'm trying to remember exactly what it is. Yeah. Usually it's my hands that get chapped, so I have like cream that I've been using. My hands look better now. Like you probably saw them like a couple weeks ago. They were horrible. They look all right now. All right, the Winter Classic at 8 p.m. It gets an isolated time spot. It's on TNT, True TV. It's the only actually nationally televised hockey game today. It is the Rangers in Florida, and for the first time ever, it's going to be an outdoor hockey game, an outdoor NHL game in a warm weather climate. I don't know how they're doing it. Don't ask me, because like I said, the Winter Classic, it's always outdoors, but it's usually in the afternoon. And it's usually like in, like I said, Boston, New York. Like I think it's been at Fenway Park before. It's been at Yankee Stadium before. It's been at Wrigley Field, I'm pretty sure, in Chicago. This is going to be, I'm pretty sure this is being played at the Marlins baseball stadium. It's in Miami. So it's like a semi-home game for Florida, basically. I mean, it's a ridiculous concept, man. I mean, I just don't know what else to say about this. I don't know how it's going to go over. It's going to be like 70 degrees outside there. Maybe part of the reason why they're playing it at night is probably because it'll be a little bit cooler at night, but it's still probably going to be like 60s at night in Miami. So I don't know. I don't know how they're keeping the ice frozen. It's going to turn into bath water, man. Splish splash. They're all going to be taking a bath, man. I don't know how this game is going to go over. It might be interesting to watch. I don't know what the uniforms are going to look like for this one. Usually the teams have some cool uniforms. Rangers are technically on the road in this one. So, yeah, I know we've talked about how they're a good road team. They're coming off an ugly loss to Washington. This will be the last game of their road trip, if you want to consider it to be part of the road trip, which I think you should, because they are on the road here still. So they're finishing the road trip that they started back on the 27th. They've lost every game on the road trip, and coming off a 6-3 loss, even though I know it was to a pretty good Washington team, they should be in bounce-back mode here. You got to think they should be focused here. Shesterkin should be back in net here for them, but I don't think Florida's going to overlook this game either, man, because this is a big deal. I think for them, like, they get to host the Winter Classic. Like, it's kind of a historical event, the first time it gets hosted. Again, in a warm weather climate. Like, I think the Rangers have probably hosted one of these things before, so I think the game might mean more to Florida. Florida is coming off a little bit of a tougher loss on Tuesday to Montreal, but they're staying at home in Florida. And yes, they do have Colorado next, but they're not going to overlook the Winter Classic, I would not imagine. So, it's a tough call, man. It really is a tough call. I think the spot does set up better for the Rangers generally, coming off that ugly loss. The money is saying Rangers. Florida down from minus 150 to minus 142. 54% of the tickets on Florida. 51% of the cash on the Rangers. Money is somewhat indicating on the Rangers here. I mean, I have very, very light agreement with the Rangers, but I don't love it by any means. I could definitely see arguments for both sides in that game. So, yeah, it's definitely a pass. The Rickshaw episode. They have a lot of episodes they wouldn't be able to do today. They had an episode that wasn't even allowed back then. One of the Seinfeld episodes didn't get aired in the final season. The Puerto Rican Day Parade episode, which you can go find it. I mean, it is out there, but it didn't get aired, I don't think. It was, I don't know, too racist or I have no idea. Like, I've watched the episode. It's not even offensive. It's not the funniest episode. Maybe the most offensive thing about it is that it's just not that funny. So I don't know. It was actually the last episode before. I believe they had like a couple of clip shows, and then they did the finale. So it was actually the last like real episode, which kind of sucks. Because people talk about how bad that last season was, and it's not. Like the finale is bad, and the Puerto Rican Day Parade is, I mean, it has its moments, it has its thing because it got canceled, so there is that about it. So, you got to kind of respect it for that. But the rest of the episodes that season were pretty hilarious. Wait, is it a roofed stadium in Miami? I don't even know. Miami Marlins Stadium? I don't even know if it's roofed or not. That's pretty stupid, though. Dude, I'm sick of everything moving towards roofed environments. I'm sick of it. Like, you're going to get roofed stadiums in the NFL in Kansas City, Denver, Chicago. It's like, stop this shit, man. It's just such pussification of everything. It's crazy. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. All right, we have Seattle and Vancouver here. We're seeing a lot of movement on this line, indicating on the Seattle side here. Seattle just beat Nashville yesterday, so they're on a back-to-back and traveling to Vancouver. Now, they are starting a road trip with momentum, technically, but they're playing a third game in 4 days. They're actually playing, or no, wait, it's no, they had 2 days off prior to that, my mistake. So very weird, though. They're playing a fourth game in 6 days still, though, because they played 2 games, had 2 days off, and now another back-to-back. So 2 back-to-backs and then 2 days off in between the two. Weird scheduling here with travel. I mean, it's a little bit of a weird travel spot, but I believe Decord will be back in net for them. My guy, I think he's from Boston, from Massachusetts, I believe. So we'll see what happens with that. Vancouver does have more rest here, and they're staying at home, and they lost ugly to Philadelphia in the last game. So to me, I think the setup is actually better for Vancouver here, although they did just win at Seattle on Monday, the 29th. So it is one of those kind of quick road revenge angles, like zigzag spot, whatever you want to call it, maybe an adjustment for Seattle. Maybe that's why the money is pretty heavily indicating on Seattle here, but I worry about it because I think Vancouver's kind of in the better bounce back spot, and they're more rested. So I don't think I really want Seattle here. Vancouver opened a pretty heavy favorite, minus 175. They're down to minus 149. 57% of the tickets, 70% of the cash on Seattle. So the money is indicating on Seattle, but, my feeling is slightly the other way in that one. I slightly lean opposite that to Vancouver, but I don't love it at all. Mr. Pinsey, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. You're betting your wife and kids. Maybe bet your wife, but not your kids. Let's be reasonable here on Michigan State, dude. I don't know how strongly I feel about that play, man. It's my strongest of the day, but we have a very, very weak board today. Minnesota is playing Anaheim. Minnesota's coming off a shootout loss to San Jose. They have a day off after that, so they could be in a bit of a bounce-back mode here. They're not going to overlook Anaheim. Anaheim's been having a decent season. Anaheim's also going to show up. I mean, Anaheim's lost 4 games in a row, but they are coming off a pretty tough loss, an overtime loss, to Tampa Bay, staying at home here. Now, they're not going to overlook Minnesota. It's just maybe that Tampa game will tire Anaheim a little bit, so I think Minnesota, the spot does set up better for Minnesota in this game to me. I know it does mean you're going to have to lay a favorite price on the road against an Anaheim team that's pretty decent at home, although recently that hasn't been the case. 60% of tickets, 91% of the cash on Minnesota. They're up from minus 115 to minus 126 here. I don't disagree with it. I do actually agree with Minnesota in that one, but again, it's a very weak opinion for me. I just don't see spots that I really like here, man. And then we got the NBA. We have several NBA games today. I think about 8 of them. We do have the Spurs at Indiana. And when I first look at this, I'm like, well, this has got to be kind of a letdown spot because the Spurs just got their NBA Cup final revenge. They had a huge comeback against the Knicks. And if you didn't see that game, it was brutal that the Spurs didn't cover, although you could argue the Spurs shouldn't have even been in the game because they were losing by 19 late in the game. But Wembanyama got hurt in the game, so that kind of threw the game off as well. So that's something I'm going to talk about in this handicap as well. There's a lot going on here. The Spurs made a huge comeback to win that game, so they could be a bit tired. But if you saw what happened in the end of that game, Spurs are up 5 with almost no time left in the game. I talked about this on Losercast last night, too. The Knicks threw up like a bad 3 because they weren't going to win the game, or a bad shot, whatever it was. They missed the shot, and then the ball was headed towards like the top left-hand corner. Like if you're watching it on TV, you know what I mean? The corner of the court, and the Spurs player who was there just kind of went like this, just like let the ball go out of bounds, and it didn't go out of bounds, and Brunson snuck in around him, grabbed the ball, and just kind of flung it up from the corner, and it went in before the buzzer for 3. So that's why the Spurs didn't cover the -2.5 or the -3.5. Unbelievable, dude. Although, again, you could argue, well, I mean, there are a lot of arguments you can make about that game. I already made them all, but it was just ridiculous that the game ended like that. And then Brunson was just kind of like, I don't know, like shrugging. I'm like, dude, this stuff just, it really does kind of seem like it's rigged in a way, but I don't know. Because you would think that the books wanted San Antonio to cover that game, though, because the public was on the Knicks side, but I don't know. Now, San Antonio's coming off that huge game. They're going on the road to face Indiana. So normally I would say this is a letdown spot because they just beat the Knicks. It was a huge win, huge comeback. Problem is, Wembanyama's out, and you know what I always talk about, the injured player spot. When your star player is down, he's not playing in this game. The team usually steps up their level of play that first game without him. So that kind of counters that, and it just makes me have to pretty much ignore the game. For Indiana, they just played a pretty close game against Orlando. Pretty close before that at Houston as well. So they're coming off a couple of pretty big performances. They're not going to overlook San Antonio, but without Wemby, maybe Indiana has a little bit more of a tendency to overlook them here. But overall, I guess I still have to lean to the Pacers. I think the letdown spot still is just kind of more of the deciding factor here. That, and if you look at the market, the Spurs are still a 6-point favorite. 77% of tickets on them, only 70% of the cash. So the market is indicating still on taking the points of the Pacers. I guess I'll still agree with that, but I don't have a great opinion on that one. He shot it just to save the ball from, he saved it from going out, and it went in. I don't know what to say about that. The Brooklyn Nets are at Washington. This game, I mean, I thought we were talking about the Bucks game. I like the Bucks today. I don't know what we're talking about, the Nets game. This game I don't have an opinion on, really. Brooklyn's on a back-to-back, so I don't love that, although they got blown out last night by Houston, so maybe they will be focused. Maybe it'll be good to just get out of there, because they did have multiple days off prior to yesterday. They'd been off since Monday, so that kind of mitigates the back-to-back a little bit, and the fact they got annihilated. Maybe they will show up and be focused. They do have Denver next, although it's going to be a Jokic-less Denver, although I think you still get up for Denver. But after a blowout loss like that, I don't think you really overlook anybody. Oh, no, this was the game where... the Bucks, I think, was the game I was... I don't know. Let me look at the market. I forget what I was thinking. Washington did pull off the upset of Milwaukee on the road, so they could be in a letdown spot here. They got Minnesota next. Maybe that's a bigger game. I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna slightly agree with the Nets in this one. I was thinking about the Bucks game. My apologies. I think I was thinking Bucks Hornets. I wasn't thinking about this game. I agree with the Nets in this game for what it's worth, but I don't love it by any means. The Wizards are down from 1.5 to a pick 'em here. 83% of tickets, 100% of the cash on the Nets, which I don't really buy that. But, I'll agree with the Nets, but I don't really want to jump in on them in a back-to-back. But you're right. Saab is correct. Washington's kind of in a pretty ugly spot right there. Denver at Cleveland. Denver is now facing their second game without Jokic. And I talked about the injured player theory, of course. Again, they were able to win the game. First game without Jokic. They stepped up their play. They won the game against Toronto with, I believe, former Toronto Raptor Valanciunas is on Denver here. Jonas Valanciunas, I think is his name, however you pronounce his name. Denver got the win. Now, normally I would say they're going to be worse in the next game because second game without the injured player after you put in that big effort the first time, a lot of times you'll take a step back and not be as good in the next game. But I don't really know that Denver's going to overlook Cleveland, though, so that's the thing. Like, they're still going to try to show up for this game. Now, Cleveland, they're coming off a couple of nice wins against San Antonio, and then they came back home and they still beat Phoenix in the return home spot. They do have Detroit up next. Is it possible they overlook Denver because Denver doesn't have Jokic in the lineup? Yeah, that is definitely possible. There's a lot going on here, man, and you're going to be asking Cleveland to lay a huge price. So this is the Jokic reaction here. I think this has to be an overreaction, though. The Cavs are now a 13.5-point favorite just because Jokic is out. Like, what was this line going to be if Jokic was going to play? I think we don't really know, but it probably would have been like 3. I mean, is Jokic really worth that amount? I don't know, man. 69% of the tickets, 97% of the cash on the Cavs. Of course, if it was the first game without Jokic, I'd be saying, yeah, the Nuggets are the way to look here. Second game without him, I'm just not so sure, man. But it's not the greatest spot for the Cavs. I could definitely see the Cavs overlooking the Nuggets here. But then the public's going to look at this, and they're not going to lay 13.5 points with a 19-16 team against a 23-10 team, right? They're just not going to do that. So I don't think. So the line just looks crazy to see records that are that discrepant, but have the team with the lesser record being that heavy a favorite. Just a lot of insane stuff going on. When the line looks that suspicious, usually you want to be going with the suspicious line, you know what I mean, and agreeing with the odds makers. I don't know about it in this case, though. And the Nuggets are still good on the road, 13-5 on the road. Although, we'll see what happens without Jokic, but I'm not getting involved in this one, obviously. Like I said, the money is coming in on the Cavs, though, for what it's worth, and laying that huge number. I like the professional money. Seems like it's kind of on that side. Zach, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. All right, we have Atlanta at the Knicks. Atlanta coming in off a pretty big upset over Minnesota. That was a nice win. They're not going to overlook the Knicks, though. So they're starting a road trip. Now, they do have momentum because Atlanta had actually lost 7 games in a row. So I could see it going two ways, right? Because they beat Minnesota. That's a nice win as an underdog here. Now, they could be in a letdown spot, but I think what's more likely is they're going to show up here because it's the Knicks. The Knicks just beat them at home back on Saturday by 3 points. They're not going to overlook the Knicks here, so I think it's more likely that that win ended their losing momentum, and they're going to start this road trip with a little bit of confidence. For the Knicks, I don't love that they're kind of in the opposite situation where they won 3 games in a row, and then they took a loss. Possibly that's going to hang them over here, and they might overlook this Atlanta team that's just been struggling. I don't know if Trae Young is out in the lineup again. I don't know what's going on with Atlanta, but the Knicks do have Philadelphia and Detroit in their next 2 games, and I think those are bigger games. Philadelphia tomorrow. Philadelphia is still a team with a winning record, so this game for me, it would be Hawks or pass the game in this one. The Knicks are a 7.5-point favorite. 67% of tickets on the Knicks, 52% of the cash on the Hawks. I agree with the market on that one. I lean to the Hawks in that game. Orlando. It's an Orlando and Atlanta super team. No, Orlando is at Chicago. Orlando's coming up that close call against Indiana. They barely got the win. Probably means they should be kind of refocused after that because that was kind of an ugly effort against Indiana. Probably they show up for this game against Chicago. Chicago, they just won for us the other day. They beat New Orleans. Nice momentum starting win, though, for Chicago. So they probably will show up for this game against Orlando as well. So to me, it looks like both teams should show up for this. As far as the market is concerned, it looks like it's kind of indicating on the Magic, although we don't really see any percentages yet. They're up from 4.5 to 5.5. Does look, I don't know, it looks a little bit odd. I mean, it almost looks kind of easy to look towards taking the points with the Bulls at home here. So I guess I'll slightly agree with the market here and agree with the Magic, but really no opinion on this. I do not have a strong opinion on this one at all. 77% of tickets and 100% of the cash on the Magic in that game. Okay, we have Charlotte and Milwaukee. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking Milwaukee was playing Brooklyn. My mind is just, out of it today, man. I don't know what I was thinking. Charlotte is coming off a pretty tough game against Golden State, where they only lost by 7. Pretty big performance. Now they're going to Milwaukee. Starting a road trip usually is a focus spot, though. Usually you do get focus, especially because they just lost to Milwaukee by 10 at home on Monday. So it could be kind of a zigzag, kind of an adjustment spot as well. For Milwaukee, they should be in a focus spot as well, though, because they just lost to Washington. So I don't really see them overlooking Charlotte here, especially because it's just a 2-game homestand. They're going to want to get a win and split the homestand before they go back out on the road. So both teams are in focus spots here. So the money's all coming in on the Hornets, though, but I'm just not so sure about that. Bucks, 62% of tickets on them, 83% of the cash on the Hornets. I know the zigzag is in play here, where the Hornets might adjust. The market is strongly indicating on the Hornets. Bucks down from 6.5 to 6. I have to stay away from it, though. I mean, I don't really want to disagree with the market signal that's that strong. At least it is to start the day here, but yeah, I'm just going to stay away from that one. Obviously. I'm staying away from everything except Michigan State. So do with that information what you want to, as I always say. But yeah, I don't want anything to do with it. Portland at the New Orleans Pelicans. Portland just got blown out at Oklahoma City. Not totally surprising there. They do have San Antonio next. Does that mean Portland will look ahead because that's tomorrow? Maybe. So I don't know. Like, will they bounce back from a blowout loss here? Or will they still overlook New Orleans? I don't know. New Orleans coming into this game on a bunch of losses. Again, they're a streaky team, man. They've won 5 in a row. Now they've lost 5 in a row, including that game that we got right with Chicago. New Orleans should probably be in a bounce-back spot here, I would imagine. I would imagine they should show up focused, too. So, to me, it looks like the Pelicans are probably the more likely team to actually show up with focus in this game. The money is saying the Trailblazers here, but I kind of disagree. Blazers down from 1.5 to 1. They are the public side. 75% of tickets, 92% of the cash for now. But in a case like that where that discrepancy is not as big and it's all kind of on the public side, you might see that flip around a little bit. Slight opinion from me on the Pelicans, but I don't love it at all. Sacramento at Phoenix. Sacramento, they just lost to Boston yesterday. Sorry, Jeffrey. That one I was very hesitant about that one. And the market was indicating on the Celtics. Celtics, definitely not a bad team. The Kings lost by 14. They're on a back-to-back now, and they're having to travel. This is kind of a weird spot where they're now playing 3 games in 4 days, all in different cities. They're playing 4 games in 6 days, with the first 2 of them both being in LA. So a lot of weird kind of travel here for Sacramento. Now they're going back out on the road to face Phoenix on a back-to-back. So you got to worry about the rest for Sacramento, although they're not going to overlook Phoenix, but you got to worry about the rest. Phoenix hasn't played since Wednesday, but they are returning home from a road trip that they've been on since Friday, December 26th. So they're returning home from a week-long road trip. They did well on the road trip, although they only beat New Orleans and Washington. So even though they won 3 out of 4, those are not impressive wins. They lost to Cleveland to finish the road trip. So they are returning home from a road trip. And up next, they have Oklahoma City and then Houston. So this is a bad spot for Phoenix. Like, normally this is a spot where I would look to fade them because you get back home. A lot of times you have stuff to do at home. You can overlook your opponent, especially when you have much bigger opponents on deck. So it's a terrible spot for Phoenix. So I would probably fade them. I would agree with taking the points with the Kings, but with the Kings' awful rest scenario here, I can't get there with this one. And the Suns, they look like they're taking some of the money. They're up from 11 to 12.5. 74% of tickets, 94% of the cash on them. So I worry about that one as well, man. I got to stay off of it. Oklahoma City at Golden State. Let's see. Oklahoma City here. They just had that blowout win over Portland. They're starting a road trip. They are starting the road trip with momentum. I don't really see them overlooking Golden State in a spot like this. Even though Golden State's not as good right now, they're still a team of the winning record. They're still Golden State. Steph Curry, I think, is going to play, although he is on the injury report right now. So you got to look at the injury report. It looks like Draymond Green is not going to play in this game because he's old and they're resting him. But I think Curry will go if he can. He's a game-time decision. Golden State, They're returning home from a road trip. They've been on since Sunday, so not a long road trip return. And they're not going to overlook Oklahoma City, so I think that kind of negates the fact that it's a road trip return and there might be distractions at play. They'll show up for a game against OKC. Golden State finished the road trip with a win over Charlotte, whatever. So, I mean, the line has moved up from the Thunder -5.5 to -9, although that might indicate that maybe Curry might not be playing in this game if this line moved like this up to 9. I don't know what spurred this line move. No pun intended. The Spurs not playing in this game. The Thunder are going to be without Hartenstein, by the way. Hartenstein, he's not playing in this game, so something to keep in mind. Thunder definitely have a deep roster, though. 58% of the tickets on the Thunder. 53% of the cash coming back in on the Warriors. So the money is indicating on taking the points of the Warriors. I don't really want to disagree, but man, I really don't want to fade. The Thunder are just a dominant team, and I don't really want to be jumping in front of them when they're not in a really bad spot or anything. So, yeah, I mean, again, I'm just putting all the info out there. Yeah, we can go on together with suspicious minds. Yeah, whatever. Elvis there. Jeffrey, see you, man. Dude, I'm going to talk about football in a minute, though. The bowls that are on today, including one of the best bowls that's out there, man. One of the ones with the most ridiculous ceremonies. Memphis at L.A. here. Memphis at the Lakers, I should say. Now, the Lakers, we know they're shorthanded right now as well. They're still without Reeves. I don't know about Hachimura. Let me see. Yeah, they're both still out. So, Lakers, basically it's just Luka trying to carry the team right now. Hasn't been totally working out for the Lakers. Memphis, they're off of a loss to Philadelphia in overtime and now starting a road trip, and they've been off since Tuesday. So, they should be in a positive spot here, even though they are having to play a late-night game on the Pacific Coast. And you know I kind of worry about that when a team that's from further east has to go out there and play a late-night game. Kind of messes with their biological clock, although they should be focused to start a road trip, and they should have a couple of days. Because they have a couple of days off, they should be focused on this game as well. Like, it should break their losing momentum, I should say. So I don't think it's the worst spot for Memphis here. For the Lakers, they should be focused as well. They just got embarrassed at home. They have not been playing well. They've lost 3 out of their last 4. It's, again, Luka trying to carry the team. I mean, LeBron is still kind of doing his thing, but he's old, obviously. Probably they're both playing tonight with a couple of days off here. They haven't played since Tuesday, the Lakers. They got blown out by Detroit on LeBron's birthday, by the way. He's 41. He's going to have to pack it in, I think. Lakers, they should be focused in this game, I would imagine, though. So it's not really a spot where I necessarily want to fade the Lakers. They're down from 5.5 to 3.5. 55% of the tickets and cash on the Lakers. So it's hard to read what the money's really doing here. I don't know how much weight we want to put into that line move. I don't really want to fade the Lakers in a late-night game like this with the Grizzlies having to go out there. Grizzlies are kind of off a more difficult game as well, really, the overtime game against Phillies. So it would probably be Lakers or pass for me in this one, to be honest. But I don't want anything to do with it. Strongest NBA lean? Ugh, God. I don't know, because I hate all of the games. Absolutely hate them. Man. I don't know. I don't like these games at all. I really don't. Hawks, probably. I would say the Hawks plus the points. I think the Knicks are kind of in a sandwich spot here, right? That was my assessment. Yeah, I mean, Philadelphia and Detroit are their next 2 opponents. They're coming off that tough game to San Antonio. They're also technically returning over from a road trip as well, which I don't know if I mentioned that or not. They're for less than a week, though, but still, it did take them to Texas. Yeah, I think the Hawks are probably the best NBA lean today. I do not have a play on it, though. Got to get back. Dude, I'm being maybe overly selective here, but that's just the way that it is. And then we have college football bowls here, man. No playoffs today. No playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game. Another game.
Now, the Bowls don't start until 1 p.m. today, and 3 of them are on ESPN. So ESPN has a triple header, and then there are 2 primetime bowl games. The first bowl game up is the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Boo! In Fort Worth, Texas, because of course it is. Lockheed Martin. This is the Bomb Gaza Armed Forces Bowl here. Interestingly, well, not that interesting because there are a lot of Texas teams, and a lot of times these Texas teams draw a Texas Bowl, and that's what we got here. Rice and Texas State are both in the state of Texas. Rice is in Houston, so they're going up north to Fort Worth here, and Texas State is in San Marcos. Is that the name of it? They're kind of, they're about like a two and a half hour drive west of Houston, I believe. So both teams are having to travel here, so they're both in Texas, but they're both maybe traveling enough that they consider this to be kind of a destination bowl. Now, when I first looked at this, I'm like, well, Rice is one of those teams that's 5-7, and they get invited into a bowl just because so many teams didn't want to take bowl bids, you know what I mean? So these 5-7 teams get invited, and when they accept, that usually means they want to be here. So I'm thinking, well, Rice wants to be here. Rice is facing kind of an in-state bigger brother here in Texas State. So my first reaction here was Rice probably wants to be here. They'll probably be the more excited team. And it turns out, not so much. It looks like Rice, dude, this is the new era, man. Like these teams that think they're not going to be in a bowl, they just have all these guys like declaring they're just not, like they're just going to move on basically. And they enter the transfer portal and whatever's going on. Now, it's not that extreme, but Rice's quarterback is not playing, Jenkins. So he has entered the transfer portal. He's not playing. It looks like it's going to be Creighton Jr. at quarterback, whoever that is. Now, for Rice, I don't really know how much that matters for Rice because Rice is a team that runs the ball almost all the time because they're basically like a triple option offense. So they run the football all the time. And yes, I know sometimes it's hard to prepare for a triple option, but Rice doesn't exactly do it well. They kind of become one-dimensional. They're a really weak offense, man. Rice is. Texas State has the much more potent offense out of these two. Now, Rice does have actually more people opting out of this game, interestingly. Texas State, they're one of those teams that's sitting at 6-6, man. And Texas State, they were actually better than this record makes it look. Texas State lost like 4 or 5 games this year when they were favored. And in some of them, they were favored pretty significantly. So they really underperformed this year. And I was talking about that down the stretch. And a lot of times these 6-6 teams, they show up for bowl games because they don't want to finish the season on a losing record. And look at what Texas State did. They won 3 games in a row to finish the season. So they really looked like they wanted to get to a bowl. And it kind of shows because even though this Texas State team is in bowls a lot, like this coach that they have, these guys play for this coach, man. And they have done decently in bowls, I think, during his tenure as well. And they don't really have a whole lot of guys opting out here, man. They kicked one guy off the team, but that was way back in the middle of the season. And really, Texas State is a pretty intact team, man. They have one guy with an injury, and really, they don't have a whole lot going on here. They have 2 guys in the transfer portal, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to play. So Texas State looks like they pretty much have their full team, and Rice doesn't really. So the line has moved up from 10.5 to 18.5 now on Texas Tech. Absolutely crazy. 18.5. Texas State. Why do I keep saying Texas Tech? Texas State, excuse me. I'm like Steve Merrill, man, on Wager Talk, because when he talked about these games, he said Texas Tech as well. The money looks like it is on Texas State. 76% of tickets, 91% of the cash. I think they're going to win this game probably by a pretty big margin, but there's no way that there's any value left at this point at 18.5. I don't think you could lay that. 18.5, maybe anything below 17 kind of made sense, but 18.5, I think you just got to stay away. I don't really want any part of Rice either, though. Like, Rice, their offense might struggle here. The total is in the mid-50s, but it has dropped. 70% of the tickets on the over, 56% of the cash on the under. Probably has to do with Rice losing their quarterback and stuff like that. Because even though they don't throw the ball, the quarterback, a lot of times, when it's like a triple option attack, the quarterback runs a lot and is involved in that style of offense. So losing their quarterback probably is fairly significant, I guess, because otherwise the line wouldn't really move like this. So to me, it does seem like Rice is kind of not showing up in this game, though. So I think Texas State wins. Don't really want to lay it when it's at this price, but I really don't want any part of Rice either. And I don't really want any part of the under either, even though Rice's offense could definitely struggle here. But Texas State should be able to score a lot of points in this one, I would have to imagine. And then, I don't know, man. Maybe Rice doesn't have to do a whole lot to get this thing over the total. And Texas State, I don't think their defense is really that excellent, so we'll see. But, yeah, obviously I'm not going to play this game. Jeffrey is going to be on Navy in the Liberty Bowl here, which is the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. There you go. You have a more palatable sponsor there. You get a car care company here. This game is in Memphis, Tennessee. I believe it's hosted by the University of Memphis. One thing to be aware of is it's going to be raining, and that is going to help Navy if it's raining. So, there are definitely some advantages to Navy in this one. This is Navy against Cincinnati. And first look, you might think, well, the Big 12 team, Cincinnati is the better team, right? Like they should be favored here. And they were going to be a small favorite. Cincinnati was going to be about a 2-point favorite. But obviously, Cincinnati is not excited to be in this bowl. And they have a lot of guys not playing. I think out of all the teams today, Cincinnati has by far the most opt-outs. Like their team is just not really showing up, including their quarterback. I forget his name, but Cincinnati's not showing up, man. I mean, look at all these guys. Sorsby is their quarterback. He's not playing. They have a lot of guys in the transfer portal, and according to this, none of these guys are on the depth chart for the bowl, so Cincinnati has a ton of guys not playing in this game, and that's why Navy is now a 7-point favorite. The question is, Navy should win this game. The question is, are they going to cover? And that is, I don't know, this looks very similar to that Army game where Army did win by a pretty big margin against UConn. Because remember, UConn was probably going to be like a small favorite, a small dog, and that when their whole team decided not to play in the game, basically. And that game was in kind of iffy weather as well, in the cold in Fenway Park. Now, this game, kind of similar to that. It's going to be kind of wet. It's going to be definitely wet. It's going to be in the 50s. And that definitely has to help Navy, man. When you're a team that runs the football all the time and you play well in the trenches and whatever, I think the bad weather, Navy is definitely more well-suited to the bad weather, so that is another advantage to Navy here. But they have 80% of the tickets and only 76% of the cash on them, so the public is on Navy, and it looks like the money is kind of taking back on Cincinnati a little bit, but really I think that's just a fade of the possible overreaction in the market. Really, you have to figure out, is this really an overreaction or not? And if Cincinnati's whole team isn't showing up, maybe it really isn't. I don't know. I would not want Cincinnati in this game. I'll tell you that much. Now, Navy, of course, like I said with Army, these service academies, they don't do the transfer portal thing, so they pretty much field their full team for these bowl games. And in the New Era and whatever, that's also not the New Era Pinstripe Bowl. New Era doesn't sponsor that game anymore. But in the New Era of football, the service academies, they do well, man, in these bowl games. But it also has to do with the fact that they're disciplined. They don't make as many mistakes because of that. And because they run the football all the time, they don't have to worry about that long layoff. Although Navy doesn't have to worry about that anyway, though, really, because they played in the Army-Navy game, which I talked about with Army as well. But these service academies do well in bowls typically as well because the long layoff doesn't affect them as much. And I think it would affect Cincinnati because Cincinnati mostly is a passing attack on offense. And I don't even know who their backup quarterback is in this game or what that attack is going to look like. But when you're a team that throws the football, that will affect your offense more. So Cincinnati's offense should be affected a little bit more by that. Cincinnati does not defend the run well either, by the way, so Navy should be able to power their way through this game with their triple option attack, and I expect Navy to probably be gaining some huge chunks on the ground in this game against the Cincinnati defense. And in the rain on slick surfaces, it might make the defending it even more difficult, actually. So definitely a significant amount of advantages for Navy here. Again, that's why the line is moved. Now, as I pointed out, as I was just alluding to, the Service Academies are now 11-1 against the spread in the last 12 games they've been in. Although, take it with a grain of salt because most of those games they were underdogs. But of course, Army is included as one of those, and Army was a pretty big favorite this year. Navy also is. Navy has the better offense than Army does, although Navy is worse defensively than Army is. So keep all that in mind. Navy actually throws the ball a little bit on offense, but not that much. And I don't know. They'll probably not be doing it as much in the rain either, but their rushing attack should be strong in this one. Now, the total, we have 59% of tickets on the over, 77% of the cash on the over. The total's up to 56, but it's hard to gauge the total, man, because if Navy's going to be running the football, it might mean there are going to be fewer points in the game. But then again, in college football, when you have a really strong rushing attack, you can still score a lot of points that way. So I do worry about that. And of course, Navy's defense is not that good. So it is possible that Cincinnati's backup offense, they kind of show up. They at least want to play, even though they're less talented. And it is possible they are able to get some points against Navy's defense, which just isn't that good. So I probably wouldn't want an under in this game. Money kind of indicating on the over. I'll lean Navy on the side, especially if you can get 7 or better. Don't lay the hook to 7.5. Get like the key number, at least get 7. But I just don't love it, man. Maybe you could have had more value like earlier in the bowl season. Although, of course, this is because of all the opt-outs, and maybe it's even not enough of a reaction. A lot of times you do see that in these bowl games where the line moves a ton and it's still not enough. But I don't know. I feel like I'm talking about this game too much, but yeah, Navy should win. And then, of course, they will have the ability to cover a number like this as a favorite by running the football. So if Navy's winning the game, just like Army the other day, a good rushing attack can pad the lead while they're doing what they do best. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to be running the football because they're ahead, but they can also be scoring more points while they're doing that. So all stuff to keep in mind. The bowl that we've all been waiting for, though, actually, I'm going to talk about it last, I guess. So I'll hold off on that one. But we do have 2 games at 8 p.m. Those first 2 games are both on ESPN. This first game at 8 p.m. Is on Fox, which is number 17 Arizona and SMU in the Trust and Will Holiday Bowl, which used to be something else. I don't know what Trust and Will is. Maybe I don't want to know. As long as it's not Stranger Things related, I don't think it is. It probably has to do with it probably is some legal firm or something like that handles like wills for people, you know what I mean? Something like that. That it has something to do with that, I assume. This is in San Diego, California. It's going to be good weather, it looks like here. It's going to be in the 60s. Good weather in the Texas game as well, by the way, in the Armed Forces Bowl, 70 and sunny. So, we're not expecting bad weather in some of these games here today. This is the Holiday Bowl. Like I said, it's in San Diego. Now, the location is a little bit better for Arizona than SMU because they're a little bit closer to it. So, Arizona might have a little bit more of a fan base in this game. But the thing is, Arizona, the fact that they were a 1-point favorite, now they're actually a 1-point dog. SMU's gone from 1.5-point dog to a 1-point favorite. Now, the money is all over SMU in this game. 70% of the cash on SMU, 53% of the tickets on Arizona. You got to think Arizona's going to be a bit of a public side. Like, people looking, it's a pick the winner, and we get a ranked Arizona team here against SMU. It looks so easy to play Arizona, right? But the money seems to be indicating otherwise, and there are a lot of question marks in this game as far as the opt-outs, and that's because the coach for Arizona, Brett Brennan, has not announced the opt-outs because he's trying to keep SMU guessing, but the odds makers have some information here. It looks like the line is moving towards SMU because Arizona has got to have some opt-outs here in this game, and that's the only reason why SMU has got to be seeing money. And Arizona was actually a 3-point favorite at one point in this game, so there's got to be some opt-outs on the Arizona side here. So I don't know how significant they're going to be because the coach isn't letting us know. It seemed like... we don't know. But for Arizona, it looks like there are going to be some opt-outs. It looks like Arizona might not totally take this game seriously, which kind of surprises me, though, because Arizona missed out on the bowl season last year. So I thought they might be excited to get back to a bowl, whereas for SMU, they were in the playoff last year, man. So why would SMU be that excited to play in the Holiday Bowl this year. I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe because they get to play another power conference team in Arizona, maybe they get excited about that. I don't know, but it looks like SMU, for the most part, is somewhat showing up here. Jennings, their quarterback that they've had for the last few years, he's got a lot of bowl experience. Looked like he might not play in this game, but now it looks like he will. So it looks like SMU doesn't have a ton of guys not playing in this game. So it looks like more of the opt-outs are going to hit Arizona in this game. So I'm not going to disagree with SMU here. But the way that this bowl set up when I first looked at it, just where I thought the motivation would be was opposite that. So very interesting. But I don't want to fade a market read like this either. So I think it's got to be SMU or pass in that one. And then we have the final game, the one you've all been waiting for, man. The Dukes Mayo Bowl. Here it is, man. It's at 8 p.m. tonight on ESPN. Wake Forest and Mississippi State are in this bowl. It's in Charlotte, North Carolina. Garrett, there you go. Garrett, you going to this game, the Mayo Bowl? You can get some free mayo at the game. Now, this bowl has become notorious. This used to be like the Belk Bowl, I think, and the Meineke Car Care Bowl, and I forget what else it was. But it's been the Dukes Mayo Bowl for like 5-6 years now, and it is infamous for its humiliation ritual where the winning coach has a vat of Dukes Mayo dumped onto them. I know it sounds insane, but you've seen what's going on with like the Pop-Tart Bowl and the Cheez-Its Bowl and whatever. I'm not making this up. This is what happens in the Dukes Mayo Bowl. In the Idaho Potato Bowl, the winning coach gets fries dumped on their head, although that's a lot easier to deal with than mayo. But you can go see the videos of this. Every coach that's won this bowl has taken the mayo bath, and that's what's going to have to happen here. Maybe that means the coach doesn't want to win, but I don't really think it factors into the bowl handicap. Now, first look at this game, you got to notice that Mississippi State's a 3-point favorite. Why is Mississippi State a 3-point favorite if they're a 5-7 team and Wake Forest is 8-4, right? So the odds makers are telling you Mississippi State's the better team. Like, they've faced a more difficult schedule. They're in the SEC. I know, say what you want about the SEC being overrated and whatever, but clearly the SEC is the more powerful conference than the ACC, okay? That's just the way that it is. So Mississippi State's favored for a reason. It looks weird that they're a favorite even though they're a weak 5-7 team. So, again, it's one of these fishy lines here. So that makes me lean towards Mississippi State for that reason, because the public is not really going to want them. 54% of tickets on Mississippi State, 60% of the cash. The line looks like it's moving a little bit towards Mississippi State. I forgot to talk about the total in that Arizona and SMU game, by the way. It's sitting at 52 with not much movement. 84% of tickets and 95% of the cash on the over. But it's really hard to gauge the total with not knowing who's going to play for Arizona. So the money's kind of indicating on the over, but I have no real sense for that, which is basically why I didn't talk about it. All right, now for Wake and Mississippi State, I actually think both teams should be excited to be here because I think both teams have had some bowl droughts here. Like, I think Wake hasn't been in a bowl for a bit, and Mississippi State, I know, missed out on the bowl last year and maybe even the year before that. So I think both teams should be excited to be here. Usually when a team is 5-7, like I just said, they're going to show up, even though I know it looks like Rice is not showing up in their bowl game. And we saw one of the other 5-7 teams, what was it, yesterday, didn't show up either. I forget, but with Mississippi State, man, I mean, they're kind of a proud program, and being able to get back to a bowl, again, you know there's a reason why they accepted the bowl invite, because they got the bowl invite at 5-7. You got to look at their opt-outs, of course, but for Mississippi State, it doesn't look like there's really much. So they fired their defensive coordinator. It looks like I'm okay with that. Their old defensive coordinator is coming back, actually. So I don't think that's a huge problem for Mississippi State. And then for Mississippi State, we don't know who their quarterback is going to be. And I think that's more because of an injury issue with Shapen. Maybe they might be misshaped. They might miss Shapen in this game. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but Shapen. He was hurt last year, man, which is part of the reason why they missed the bowls last year. But he got hurt again towards the end of the season, so Taylor stepped in and played a little bit. But I still kind of like Mississippi State regardless of which QB it is here. Taylor at least has some experience under his belt, so I don't think he's going to be intimidated by this. I mean, he played against SEC opponents when he was in there down the stretch, so he has a few games under his belt, so I'm not as worried about that quarterback situation. And for the most part, it looks like Mississippi State does not have a lot of guys missing this game. They really don't have anything really listed on the potential opt-outs and whatever. Just one of their safeties, really. So they look like they're going to have a fully intact roster, whereas Wake has a few more guys possibly not being in this game, including their running back, who's declared for the NFL draft, Claiborne. So we don't know if he's playing in this game. That would be a little bit of a hit to Wake's offense, which Wake's offense isn't that good to begin with. And yes, I know Wake does have a good defense, yes. But again, it was against ACC opponents for the most part. So yes, you could argue Wake is the better defense here, getting points. But in this game, I just think you're taking the stronger and more intact team with Mississippi State. And I actually think they're going to want to show up in this game. So, and then, yes, you do have to worry about, I do like Mississippi State in this game, but you do have to worry about Wake is closer to campus, obviously, because they're playing in Charlotte. So you know they're going to have a crowd here. Mississippi State should travel okay for this game as well with the Cowbells. But, of course, Wake does have a little bit of a location edge there. And I don't think it's one of those spots where it's going to be like a disappointed team that's even more disappointed because they don't get to go anywhere for their bowl game. You know what I mean? Like, this is a case where I think Wake, they just haven't been in that many bowls recently. So I do think they'll show up, and they'll be excited, I think, to play an SEC team. So I do have my hesitations with it, but I lean Mississippi State in the game, even though I see reasons why both teams will kind of get up for it. For the total in this game, it's moved towards the under a little bit, which I don't disagree with. It's gone down to 53 from 56.5. Some of it might be the quarterback uncertainty with Mississippi State. Some of it might be the running back maybe not playing for Wake. But Wake's offense really isn't that good, and their defense is better than their offense. So they do play in a lot of lower-scoring games. 69% of tickets on the over, 63% of the cash on the over. Yeah, again, I don't disagree with the under here, even though the under seems like it might even correlate to Wake's side, though. But I do like the Mississippi State side. I think they get it done. I think their coach winds up having to take the Mayo bath. We'll see, though. Not a strong opinion for me, though. And that is it, man. That's going to do it. All that. Almost 2 hours just to give you Michigan State as my one play in college basketball. Hopefully we can get it done. That's more of a strength of schedule opinion, which that's what factored into my Oregon play yesterday. So hopefully we can get it done. It's just one play today. I'm treading very carefully today, treading lightly. I might be back tonight because we're starting conference play. So there's a huge Saturday college basketball card. So I think I have to start doing the Friday night because now that we don't have college football to really talk about, although I think there are going to be college football games still to be played, but yeah, like the playoffs, I believe, won't continue until next week or whatever. But yeah, now that I don't have to do college football on Saturday nights, it's now conference play in college basketball. I think I'll probably have to do college basketball Friday nights, for Saturday's card. So I'll probably be back to do that. It's going to be a huge gauntlet. It's going to be very tiring. We'll see. Lots of stuff from me. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. You can check all that out. You can subscribe to me on Twitter. Comment on the channel here. Tell your friends, subscribe, of course. Get my numbers up, baby. On Toadstool Sports here. We're also on audio. You can listen over there. You can give me a good review. That helps on Spotify and Apple. Covered in Uke is my ukulele channel on YouTube, which I haven't done anything since the holidays, but hopefully I'll get back to that as well, so you can check that out as well. Covered in Uke. We got, what else? Patreon.com/LearnToToad, and there's some bonus Uke content there. The Loser Cast, which we did another episode last night that was just me and Leighton. We're doing a lot of episodes with that show. The new comedy podcast where we just nominate losers, baby. That's what we do. We had kind of an impromptu Tower Gang on New Year's. I don't know if you want to call it Tower Gang or not, but late night, right after the clock struck midnight, basically, Clint wanted to do a show, so I did a show with him, and a drunk, studio-less Tyler dropped in as well, so that is up. I'd say go check it out on Rumble, because I am probably going to delete it from YouTube, so go check that out on Rumble, and yeah, I think that does it for all the stuff that I've been doing. I'm going to be on a couple of podcasts within the next couple of days. I'm going to be on Gray Pilled Jules. I'm going to be on with him on Sunday night, I believe. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but you can check that out. And then Of course, I'm going to do my NFL show here Saturday night as usual, though we got to talk about 2 NFL games for tomorrow in the final week, so I'll talk about those in the morning. I don't know if I'm going to have a play on either one of those yet. I'm considering it maybe. And then I am going to be on... Dude, I apologize to these. I forget what these podcasts are going to be. I tweeted it out, so you can go find it. I forget what the name of the podcast is. I apologize. And he's got some big guests on his show, bigger than me. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I apologize. You can go check my Twitter. You can see I retweeted it. I wish I remember the name of the show, but I'm going to be on whatever show that is on the 7th, I believe. So you can check that out as well. That's going to do it. Let's have a good day today. Let's win with the one play today with Michigan State. Thank you, sir. Thanks for hanging out. Peace, everybody.